One ನಿಮಿಷ ರವಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಇದೆಯಾ? Invite.
Namaskaram. On behalf of Jnanasudha, I welcome you all. I will allow Alkananda to introduce today's guest. Alka, over to you.
So should we go directly to introduction?
Yes, Alka.
Okay.
Your video, please.
Saraswatyai Namah. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Shruti Smriti Puranana Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Namaste. Jnanasudha team is very, very happy to invite you, one and all, to the series of lectures on regional philosophical scriptures. We have abundant wealth of wisdom of Sanathana Dharma, which is passed on through various regional languages to reach the commoners. So, Jnanasudha team is working on bringing different scholars who are inspired by their regional scripture to give us the knowledge which is hidden in that. So in this series, the first speaker today is Sri Shaji Krishnan. He is going to talk on Njanapanam of Malayalam. Sri Shaji Krishnan is graduated from McGill University, Montreal, and he has been working with Canadian nuclear industry for the last 30 years. His parents introduced him to the world of Vedanta and Swami Chinmayananda during his teenage years itself. He is very much interested in the teachings of Sanatana Dharma and is passionate about disseminating the amazing philosophy and information to all. He is also a very active volunteer in our Brampton Guruvayoorappan temple, and he conducts series of lectures through Guruvayoorappan temple, Brampton. So, Sri Shaji, we are all very happy to invite you to take over the mic and give us the knowledge. We don't know how we all will be influenced to take the great book Jnanapanam in our hands and study it. So please take over.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alaknandaji. I will share my screen. I have a PowerPoint presentation. There are a few slides which has got sound capability as well. I will let you know in case if you have any problems in hearing it, please do flag it to me because I'm on the full screen mode and I can't see any text being sent to me. So if you can stop me and let me know, I will correct myself. So welcome all. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. And with a short note, let me start today's presentation. It's on a beautiful text called Njanappana. So as we go along this presentation, I will slowly introduce you and slowly unfurl you to all the nuances and all the detailed philosophies embedded in this beautiful gem. So before we start any talk, we always go with an invocation prayer. And we will be using an invocation prayer from Njanappana itself. It's called the Mangala Charanam. That's the salutation or the prayer praising the Guru. And this particular Mangala Charanam has been sung by a very famous Malayalam poet or a singer, let me say that way, called P. Leela. She was born in the 1930s, in the mid-1930s. And this particular Njanappana, her voice, you will be able to hear this in the Guruvayoorappan temple in Kerala every day in the morning. So I just thought maybe I'll play a small clip of it so that you can taste it and you can just remind yourself as you're standing in the beautiful temple of Sri Guruvayoorappan in Kerala. So I'm playing the sound. If you're not able to hear it, let me know, please.
Gurunathan tunacheka santatam Tirunamangal navin meleppozhum Piriyade irikkanam nammude narajanmam saphalamaki സഫലമാക്കിയിടുവാൻ. കൃഷ്ണ കൃഷ്ണ മുകുന്ദ ജനാർദ്ദന കൃഷ്ണ ഗോവിന്ദ നാരായണ ഹരേ. കൃഷ്ണ കൃഷ്ണ മുകുന്ദ ജനാർദ്ദന കൃഷ്ണ ഗോവിന്ദ.
It's a very beautiful wording. It says Gurunathan Tunachaiga Sandadam. May the Guru bless us. Tiru Namangal Navinmel Epurum Piriyade Irikenam Namude Nara Janmam Sabalamakiduvan. Let the holy names of the Lord reside in our tips. Let us be able to chant the holy names, the most auspicious names all the time. Let our life, the human life, be meaningful and let it fulfill the purpose it's been destined to. Such beautiful wordings here. Getting the invocation from the Guru, the Lord himself, so that the name resides in our tongue all the time and we have the courage and the determination to chant the name always, so that this precious human life which we have endowed with reaches a fulfilled goal. So there's a lot of keywords here all throughout, which we will be looking into as we progress through this text. So when we look at the Guru Parambara and the Vandana, because we typically hear in the Advaitic philosophy, for example, my lineage, we always go with see Dakshinamurti, the primordial God, then comes Shankara Bhagavad Pada or Adi Shankaracharya, and then my immediate Guru, Sri Chinmayanandaji. So that is a lineage which we talk to, but here, Poonthanam Tirumeni takes a little bit of deviation, which we'll be looking at in the latest slides. So this particular magnum opus of Poonthanamji has got very, very embedded philosophical insights. So what I'm planning to do in this talk is there is no way to cover the entire poetry or this Njanappana because it has got 360 lines. So instead what I've done is I've picked up one Mangalacharanam plus 2 or 3 extra slokas. And when we play these slokas, we will look at the Advaitic Vedantic philosophies between it as expounded by Bhagavad Pada and as explained in simple terms by Swami Chinmayananda, so that our understanding is much more deep-rooted. We understand the whole darshanikakavyam so that we can appreciate it much better, then we will slowly progress. So the whole glories goes to Shankar Bhagavad Pada and my immediate Guru, Swami Chinmayananda. I'm just using their own words, so nothing is my own. The only thing which I own in these presentations are the mistakes, the omissions, and the errors I'll be committing. If so, please correct me and please guide me so that I can continuously improve myself. So with that note, let's go into it and let's see why Poonthanam Tirumeni preferred to use that particular wording there. There is a very beautiful sloka in Patanjali Yoga Sutra called Purvesham Api Guruhu Kalena Anavachedat. So it basically means Ishvara, the primordial God, is my ultimate Guru. He's a teacher from the past, the present, and the future. Because as we say, Satyam Anantam, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Because that which goes beyond the time scale is Brahma. And that is also the Satyam, and that is the truth, the Jnanam as well. So he's equating the Guru to the ultimate truth, which does not have any boundaries based on Kala Desham. So it is beyond it. And the person that is beyond it is our primordial God. So he's assuming that the primordial God is his first and his foremost teacher. And he's asking the blessings of Lord Guruvayoorappan, the Lord Sri Krishna, to remove the darkness of Ajnanam, the avidya, the ignorance that is covering us so that our knowledge is exposed. And he's asking the guidance of Lord Guruvayoorappan to be the Guru, the Savior, the Nathan. So that is how the first Mangalacharanam sloka goes. And when Dr. Alaknandaji asked me if I can do this talk, the last time I read this talk was 40 years back when I was maybe 10 or 11 years old. I live in a place called Coimbatore in Tamil Nadu. So my party or my grandmom came and lived with us, and she, during the Sandhya Namam, made it a point to me and my little brother, so that we'll sit together and we will read this Njanappana. So we started reading it for a year, and we more or less memorized 1/4 of it. Then my grandmother had to leave back to Kerala, so she couldn't complete it. But after a span of 40 years, when Dr. Alaknandaji asked me if I could talk about it, a lot of fresh memories, which is approximately 40 years old, came to my mind, and I started looking at this beautiful darshanikakavyam in a new light after gaining a lot of exposure. And what all I have learned, I'm just summarizing it. So the Malayalam wordings that you see on the screen, it says Poonthanam's Njanappana. Poonthanam's Njanappana. Jnanapanam, basically, before we get into the real text, we'll have a quick short introduction on what the text is all about, then a little bit of description about the poet, then we will get into it. So Jnanapanam can be broken into two simple words, Jnana and Pana. Jnana, as we all know, in all the Indian languages, it basically means knowledge or wisdom. Pana comes from the Tamil word pan. It is a melodic mode or a poetic meter that was used. So that is why there was a group of people called paners or banners. They used to talk, they were bards, they were talking about the praises of the god, and they also used to sing the praises of the kings as well. So that is how the word pana comes in, and you can even see in the Tamil movie Tirukkural as well, right? When Lord Shiva debates with Pana Butter. So those kind of things as well. So that is what the meaning of Njanappana is. And basically there are two main English equivalents to this word. Either call it as a fountain of divine wisdom or the song of the divine wisdom. So that's what the meaning of Njanappana is. And as we mentioned, Njanappana was written by Sri Poonthanam Tirumeni. And this happened sometime in the 16th century. And the whole poem consists of 360 lines. And this poem is called as a darshanika poem, or a highly philosophical poem. The reason it's called as a darshanika poem is because it summarizes the essence of all the Vedas. In short, every Upanishadic philosophy is summarized in one way or the other in this beautiful Jnanappana, and a lot of quotes or the saram of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Bhajagovindam, Viveka Chudamani, and Narayaniam are all here as well. So the beauty about this Jnanappana is it was written for a common man, so that the common man will understand it. There is no flowery languages here. The Malayalam is a very colloquial Malayalam. Back in the time when it was written, every person who reads it, even now, can understand each and every bit of the word. Plus, it's totally uncomplicated. There are no major phrases. There are no Sanskrit words where you need to look into a Shabdagosham or a dictionary. And it has got deep philosophical insight as well. And when Poonthanam Tirumeni wrote the whole project, what he did was he had a little bit of sub-chapters as well. It starts with Mangala Charanam, then it go to Kala Leela, Adhikari Bedam, then Tattva Vicharam, Karma Gati, Jiva Gati, then Manisha Janma Durlabham, Samsara Varnana, Vairagyam, and Nama Mahima. He talks about the whole process, tells us about our life, all the problems which you are encountering, the problems of the Vasanas, the Samsaras, the Vairagyam, and how Nama Kirtanam or the Nama Mahima will come into picture and elevate us. So in the next few slides, we will be covering those topics slowly. So this is the artistic rendition of Poonthanam Tirumeni. He's a very ardent devotee of Lord Guruvayoorappan. It is said, or it is assumed, that he was born in 1547 and he lived till 1640, till an age of 92 or 93. And he lived more or less during the same time as Melpattur Narayana Bhattatri, the famous composer who did the Srimad Narayaniyam. And what happens is that there are a lot of stories which you hear between these two people as well. And from the Hindu Sanathana Dharma perspective, we have Shodasa Samskaram. And it is said that he got married at a very young age of 20, and by 2023, he had a baby boy. And in the Shodasa Samskaram sequence, there is a phase called Annaprashnam. That is where you feed the baby with the first morsel of rice, Annam. And till then, the baby is assumed to be completely breastfed. So the baby is not consuming any food that is grown on this Prithvi or the Mother Earth. So this particular annam, the first morsel of annam, which the baby is going to consume, which is being grown in the Mother Earth, is being given to us by the elders of the family, blessing the child in presence of the Lord. They light the velaka and all the stuff. And the first annaprashnam, or in Malayalam, this is called as a choruna, is given to the baby. So this particular baby was bathed and he was all decorated and he was sitting on a cot. And a lot of relatives started coming in. And it is said that a few people didn't know that the baby was lying on the cot. So they put their top clothes or top garments on a shelf, which collapsed and fell on the baby, and the baby choked. I mean, it was time for the annaprashanam, when Poonthanam Tirumeni and his wife were about to go and bring the baby, they realized that the baby had choked himself to death. So that was a real unbearable sorrow that this particular couple could withhold or understand that particular day. The entire people who had come to attend the ceremony started crying, and that event changed Poonthanam Tirumeni's life forever. And what he did was, after that, the Yoga Vishesham concept started seeping into it. He became his devotee, became a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Then he opened up his house, which he used to call as Bhakti Saudam, to all devotees of all varnas, of all gender. And he started preaching the Namasmaranam, the constant remembrance of Lord's name. And when he was preaching this Namasmaranam, he kept on emphasizing the futility of the material existence, the ephemeral nature of our life, such a fleeting life which we have, and how we could chant the Nama Japa, the Lord's name, so that we can lead ourselves towards the path of moksha. And during this process, he kept continuously advising all the devotees about the concept of vairagya, to nurture the concept of vairagya, discernment, dispassion, so that what we could do is we can get hold of this life, we can understand the prarabdha that's in this life, so that we can slowly overcome the prarabdha. And during his multiple teachings and all the concepts which he was trying to emulate, he kept talking about the meaningless of these worldly pursuits we have. He talked about the arrogance we have, about how arrogant we are, about the beauty, about the ancestry, about the lineage and the wealth we have, saying these are all fleeting. So he kept emphasizing this concept again and again and again. So this is the house called Poonthanam Illam, and this is where the whole incident happened. And this particular house is still there, and Guruvayoor Devasam is looking after it. That's what I was told. And the beauty about this particular poet, Poonthanam Tirumeni, is when you look at all the other poets, right? You know all the history about the poets. You know when they were born, their first name, the second name, the family, the wife's name, history. But with Poonthanam Tirumeni, most of the details are unknown. He did not publicize his first name. Nobody still knows what his first name is. Most people don't know what the name of his wife is. They're all guessing. Most of the names which you hear in different blogs, they're all guesses, but actually none of them are proven, because he did not participate, nor he did give prominence to himself. So unlike most of the other poets of that particular era, whenever they were writing any kavyam, they used to have an autobiography of theirs before the kavyam, or even they named the kavyam with their names as well. Nothing happened in the case of Poonthanam. He never was in the limelight. He always put Lord Krishna in the limelight. And even people say the name Poonthanam, that is his family name, his ancestor house name, is not Poonthanam. It used to be a Tamil word called Poongavanam. That means a flower bed, or what do you call it? A garden of flowers. Poongavanam. And it got changed to Poonthanam. But we don't know anything about it. And that is a beauty of Poonthanam, a person who never sought limelight, but kept asking us, every followers, to follow it. And it is said at the very end, when he was approximately 92 or 93 years of age, he was a little bit of demented, and he kept chanting Lord's name. And at the very end, he started saying it to his wife and the kids and all his family members who assembled there, saying, Lord Krishna is coming here. He's going to take me to Vaikundam. I'm going to go to Vaikundam. Is there anyone in my family who wants to come? It is said that his wife, his children, and his grandchildren, and all the relatives who were there started laughing at him, saying, you are gone cuckoo, you are gone nuts. What are you saying? And the only person who said, Poonthanam Tirumeni is not lying, was his caretaker, an old lady who was taking care of him. And it is said that old lady went with him to Vaikuntham. Vaikuntham, the word itself means a place where there is no anxiety. And this reminds us of a beautiful sloka from Padma Puranam. Naham vasami Vaikunte yoginam hridaya nacha. Madbhakta yatra gayanti tatra tishtami Narada. That's what Lord Vishnu says to Narada. I do not dwell in Vaikuntha nor in the hearts of yogis. Wherever my devotees sing my name, Narada, I dwell there. And that is the essence of entire teachings and of Poonthanam Tirumeni. Poonthanam Tirumeni wrote quite a lot of works, not just one. It's close to 60 something there. And there is even one particular out of his major creation. There's one in Sanskritam too, Sri Ramambaji, and there's two in Tamil too. And the rest are all in Malayalam. So I just want to give you a quick introduction. And this is one of the reasons when people like the Velaka in Kerala, specifically even today, some of these Orthodox houses, they do like the Velaka and they do chant the Sandhyanamam. And when they do the Sandhyanamam, they always make it a point to chant the Njanappana. And that is one of the reasons Jnanappana is favoritely called as the Bhagavad Gita for Malayali Hindus. And the reason it was called the Bhagavad Gita of Malayali Hindus is because it connects three. Basically, the Jiva, the individual Jiva, the world Jagat, and the God Jagadishwara. So it connects all three in a very simplified manner, and it explains. And here, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the one of the first slokas, which I've randomly picked in no particular order. And I'll be playing it, and I'm hoping you'll be able to hear the audio as well.
ഇന്നി കണ്ട തടിക്കു വിനാശവും ഇന്ന നേരമന്നേതുമറിഞ്ഞില്ല ഇന്നലെയോളമെന്തെന്നറിഞ്ഞില്ല ഇനി നാളെയുമെന്തെന്നറിഞ്ഞില്ല ഇന്നി കണ്ട തടിക്കു വിനാശവും ഇന്ന നേരമന്നേതുമറിഞ്ഞില്ല കണ്ടു കണ്ടങ്ങിരിക്കും ജനങ്ങളെ കണ്ടില്ലെന്നു വരുത്തുന്നതും ഭവാൻ.
For people who understand Malayalam, it's very simple Malayalam words with a deep philosophical insight. And for people who don't understand it, you can see the wordings in the bottom left corner as well. It basically says we don't know what happened till yesterday, nor do we know what's going to happen tomorrow or for the days to come. We don't know what will happen to our body, the same body which we call I, the ahankaram and the mamakaram is built there. We don't know what's going to happen to this panchabhuta shariram in the next minute or the next moment. We don't even know when we will perish. Some people realize the truth and they embrace it, but most of us, we don't even understand it. So that is a basic concept of this beautiful sloka. And there is another sloka which I'll be playing next as well. And this particular sloka, that is why I've given the title called Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. Because as Adi Shankaracharya said, right, because we're undergoing the pangs of birth again and again, and you're passing through the throes of death again and again, but we still don't understand the concept. And even though the sloka of Adi Shankaracharya goes like this, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jadare Shayanam, Iha Samsare Bahudushtare, Kripaya Pari Pahi Murare. So this particular beautiful wordings comes more or less in the same sense as well. And there is a very beautiful Tamil poem which I have read when I was in school. It was written by Manikavasagar in Tiruvasagam. So I'm going to chant it as well, because the reason is this particular sloka, when you hear it, you will feel a lot of resemblances and connections to a lot of our beautiful Sanathana Dharma scriptures. So the Manikavasagar wrote in Tamil, புல்லாகி பூடை புழுவாய் மரமாகி பல் விறகுமாய் பறவையாய் பாம்பாகி கல்லாய் மனிதராய் பேயாய் கணங்களாகி வல் அசுரராகி முனிவராய் தேவராய் செல்லாது நின்ற இத்தாவர சங்கமத்துள் Illa pirappum pirandhen, ilaithen imperumane. So that is a beautiful wording that's coming from Manika Vaskar when in front of Lord Shiva. Now listen to this as well.
സുരലോകത്തിൽ നിന്നൊരു ജീവൻ പോയി നരലോകെ മഹീസുരനാകുന്നു. ചണ്ഡകർമ്മങ്ങൾ ചെയ്തവൻ ചാകുമ്പോൾ ചണ്ഡാല കുലത്തിങ്കൽ പിറക്കുന്നു. അസുരന്മാർ സുരന്മാരായിടുന്നു, അമരന്മാർ മരങ്ങളായിടുന്നു. അജം ചത്തു ഗജമായി പിറക്കുന്നു, ഗജം ചത്തങ്ങജവുമായിടുന്നു. നരിചത്തു നരനായി പിറക്കുന്നു, നാരിചത്തുടനോരിയായി പോകുന്നു. കൃപ കൂടാതെ പീഡിപ്പിച്ചിടുന്ന നൃപൻ ചത്തു കൃമിയായി പിറക്കുന്നു. ഈച്ച ചത്തൊരു പൂച്ചയായിടുന്നു. ഈശ്വരന്റെ വിലാസങ്ങളിങ്ങനെ.
As you heard, right, it talks about the fleeting nature of the human birth, the multiple births we take again and again and again, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, and how we are reach our human form now. So it is said in Bhagavata Puranam that there are 8.4 million species. And among the 8.4 million species, after lots and lots of rebirths, after lot and lot of punyam, one reaches the human form. And there was a very beautiful study that was done by the Hawaii University at Manoa 10 years back, and this was published in the Nature magazine. So what they did was they looked at all the biological species that were invented so far, and they tried to look at what rate were they discovered during the process in the last 300 years. And with that particular assumption, with that progression of discovery, if we keep progressing and if you are looking at all the unknowns and the known unknowns, which we know, if you look at it, how many of a species would be there in the whole world? And with a mathematical extrapolation, they came to a figure of 8.7 million species. This was published by University of Hawaii at Manoa in 10 years, approximately 10, I think it was 10 years back, somewhere around the 2012 timeframe, and it came in the Nature magazine as well. And look at our Bhagavata Puranam. Thousands and thousands of years back, they said there were 8.4 million species. I just find it so fascinating when I was just reading it. Just thought maybe I'll just throw in this fact as well. So after going through multiple births, a human being is born. So from a Purushartha perspective, if you look at the food chain, the human being is at the top because the human being has got free will, the self-authority. The human being, when you compare it with all the multiple life forms beneath it, starting from the unicellular organisms to the other mammals, we have the ability to control desires. The human beings are intelligent to understand the consequence of our actions. And the conscious awareness we have is not driven by the animalistic instinct. Because if you look at all the animals, right, all the animals are tuned to aharam, nidra, bhayam, and maitunam. Aharam is food, nidra is sleep, bhayam is fear, and maitunam is the procreational capability or the attractiveness towards another person. We do go through all these fours, and that is why our Hindu scriptures call all the jantus as mrigam. Mrigam basically means someone whose instincts are driven by ahara, nidra, bhayam, and maitunam. And says, Manisha, you are also born as a mrigam, but there is a little bit of difference to it because you have the capacity to choose your responses and act. Among the Purushartha perspective and among all the chain of people, animals are created, you are on the top because you have the free will, you have the self-authority, you have the ability to control your desires. So with that, when you look at the human life, the 4 ashrama dharmas which we have, brahmacharyam, grihastham, vanaprastham, and sannyastam, and when you look at the 4 purusharthas, artha, kama, dharma, and moksha, every human being is attracted. And one of the primary or the secondary goals is always towards artha and kama, which is very natural. And especially when you look at the 4 ashrama dharmas, the people who are following the grihasthashrama are more favoring or more inclined towards artha and kama, because that is the only ashrama dharma where you can accumulate wealth for the benefit of your family, for your society, and for the whole world. And that is why they keep saying that when you are trying to accumulate artha and kama, make sure that you ingrain or dharma into every step. Make sure that whatever you do, you do with ethics, with morals. Don't bypass dharma. Make sure dharma is inculcated in every step of artha and in every step of kama. Make sure that you are within the bounds when you're doing and acting on it, so that once you get the secondary goal, you can move towards your primary goal, which is nothing but moksha, liberation. And the reason is because whenever human beings are born, we have a lot of ingrained vasanas in us, because these are all the memory that we have contributed, which we have collected during our multiple births. And these vasanas are the things which trigger us to do or prompt it. And as you all know, right, when we have moha or delusion, we have a sense of an attachment or raga that's coming within us. And when we have this kind of raga or the attachment we have, this thing that automatically comes to us is shoka. That's the next cycle. Because what happens when you have something attached, or when you're trying to get something, the fear of not getting it will lead you to shoka. Or if you get it, the fear of not losing it will always lead to shoka. So this is some sort of a cycle that keeps circulating it. And that is what is called samyak sarati iti samsara. That which constantly moves is called samsara. And due to this vasanas and due to all the feelings that we have in our mind, the 6 main enemies of our mind, the kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha, and matsarya, they all cloud our decisions. And it prevents us, the human beings, from attaining moksha. And that is one of the reasons Sri Poonthanam Tirumeni keeps constantly reminding us in the Njanappana, saying that you are being bound by the cycle of wheel of life called samsara. You are running inside like a hamster in a wheel. So if you start running, you will keep running and you will run there forever. Try to break the shackles. Try to break away from the bondage. Try to break away from the cycle of samsara. And that is why, due to various phrases in this particular wordings which you have seen, right? It keeps telling you, once you have thoughts in your mind, the vasanas will trigger those thoughts and make it into words, and these words will become into actions. The moment they become actions, habits follow. When you keep doing a same habit again and again, it develops into a character, and that makes or leads you to your destiny. And similarly, the destiny will continue with more thoughts to re-emphasize it. It's just like a feedback mechanism where you go into this kind of cycle, which is called the never-ending cycle. So we need to break away from the shackles. And we are given with a human life, which is very, very rare. Among the 8.4 million species, the most highest among them is a human life. We are given a human life. So use it for the right purpose, for the right knowledge. And as Adi Shankaracharya said in Viveka Chudamani, Jantunam Nara Janma Durlabham. It is very, very rare to get this particular life. So don't misuse it. So use it properly so that you just don't behave like a mrigam, like just having aharam, nidra, bayam, and maituram, because you have a special purpose. And when you have these kind of vasanas, which again drive you to desires, which again drive you to thoughts and actions, imagine the form of the Lord. There's a lot of symbolism in our Hindu literature. And even if you look at Lord Mahavishnu or Lord Guruvayoorappan or Lord Krishna, look at the 4 arms. You can see on the lower left hand his kaumodagi gada. That is for punishment. That is just to say that once you're born in this cycle of life, when you act like an animal, not realizing the human potential you have, you're punishing yourself, you're going through it. That symbolizes the mace, the kaumodagi mace. And on his top left hand, you see the Panchajanyam, the clarion call, the conch. That's what he blows another Brahmam. Remember the story of Dhruva where he just kept it on his cheeks, where he was able to recite Dhruva Stuti. That is a clarion call. Use that to chant the name of the Lord. And look at his right top hand. It is called Sudarshana Chakram, Sudarshanam. That gives you the right path, that which shows you the right darshanam, that which takes you, elevates you one step above being a human. And look at his bottom hand. He's got Leela Kamalam, the beautiful blue lotus. Even the lotus grows in a muddy, slimy area, when it comes up and when it rises up, there's not even a speck of dirt or dust or slime attached to the lotus. It is beautiful. So rise up. So that is a symbolism we have in our Hinduism. And this is exactly being portrayed in different dvantas as well. When you look at Bhagavad Gita or when you look at any Upanishad, you always hear about this good dvanta, because without these dvantas, we cannot exist. It's like the yin-yang philosophy, as said in Chinese philosophy as well. If there is a good, there has to be something bad. If there is a Devi guna, there has to be an Asura guna. And even in Bhagavad Gita, it clearly says that the Devika gunam releases you and Asurika gunam binds you. And even if you look at Upanishads, and the same saram is conveyed in Njanappana as well. It says, you are born as a Nara, a human being. You have two options. Either you can elevate yourself to become a Narayana to that level, or you can go down. You can go into the abyss of the hell, which we call as Naraka, with all your demonic qualities. So the choice is completely left to us. And how many janmas we take to reach the level of Narayana is again left to us. So that is why Poonthanam in his Jnanappana keeps saying, chant the name of the Lord, chant the name of the Lord, let all the stuff from your body cleanse out. And this reminds me of another beautiful sloka, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalau Nasti Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali Yuga, when we have the quarrel and the hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance we have is chanting the holy name of the Lord, and there is no other way. So chant the holy name of God. So there is a couple of other slides as well. So I hope you have time to cover that. So let's go through it. And this is a very beautiful concept in Njanappana, where he equates the life to a simple bubble of water. So then after listening to it, we will share some of those Vedantic insights to it as well. So please listen.
നീർപ്പോള പോലെയുള്ളൊരു ദേഹത്തിൽ വീർപ്പു മാത്രമുണ്ടിങ്ങനെ കാണുന്നു. ഓർത്തിരിക്കാതെ പെട്ടെന്നൊരു നേരം നേർത്തു പോകുമതെന്നേ പറയാവൂ. ഓർത്തിരിക്കാതെ പെട്ടെന്നൊരു നേരം നേർത്തു പോകും അതെന്നേ പറയാവൂ. അത്രമാത്രമിരിക്കുന്ന നേരത്ത് കീർത്തിച്ചിടുന്നതില്ല തിരുനാമം.
See, the poet beautifully says how body is like a bubble of water. We are breathing, struggling, and we are just oblivious to everything that's happening all around us. One fine day, this body will perish, the breathing will stop, because our life is such a short span of time when you look at the yuga. And why don't we use it to chant the name of the Lord? So when you look at this particular bubbles, whenever the things called bubbles comes into it, Swami Chinmayananda and his succession of disciples, all the Swamini and Swaminijis, come with three beautiful examples. So when you see the bubbles being happening, look at the kettle when you're making a cup of tea in the morning as well. You see a lot of bubbles slowly coming up. Some of the bubbles don't even completely form. They just fizzle out. And some bubbles, what happens is they coalesce into other ones. And there are some other bubbles which makes into it and comes up to the top. This is how the nature of life is. Some we are not even born. Some we don't even get a chance to come into the world. It either ends up as a miscarriage or something else happens in early childhood and we die. And some people, we are born, but we coalesce and we go into different directions. and very few of them try to understand, have the affinity to completely form and evolve ourselves so that we can lift up and exit the regime of the water. That is a transient nature of life which we all have. And that is one of the first examples one can think of bubbles. And the second example one we can think of bubble is when you see a bubble floating up. You look at it, you see your own reflection, you see your surroundings, you see your house, you see your family. Then you associate with the bubble saying that, oh, that's me. Look at me. Oh, I look so pretty. I look so good. I have a beautiful family. I have a beautiful wealth. I have a beautiful car. And you associate with yourself as what you see on the reflection of the bubble. And when this particular bubble goes up and down due to the wind currents or due to the moisture in the atmosphere, you heartbeats, oh, I'm flying away, those kind of things too. You get a little bit of panicky as well. You get a little bit of jittery in your mind. This is exactly what happens. You are born, but we identify ourselves with this Panchabhuta Shariram, this body, this mind, and this intellect. We don't understand who resides within us. We don't understand that our Jivatma and the Paramatma are one and the same. Instead, just like a reflection you see on a bubble, you are viewing that and you're getting attached to that bubble. That is the second example on this beautiful bubble that is being said in Vedanta. And the third one that happens is like when you just try to pop a bubble, it just breaks. And what happens if it breaks? The air inside merges with the air outside. It is just like your pranavayu. When you're no longer there, the body, the pranavayu just escapes. Your jivatma goes and merges with the Paramatma. And the cycle of birth and death also continues. And what happens to the bubble? The small droplets of water that's been there, the thin film that formed the bubble, it just percolates and drops down due to gravity back into the earth or back into the water surface from which it emanated. Similarly, this particular Panchabhuta Shariram, which we all have, what happens when we die? It goes back to the Mother Earth and to the 5 Panchabhutas. So this is a beauty of the third example of the bubbles. And that is why when you hear this Nama Sankirtanam happening in the Margari month, all the people go for the Nagara Sankirtana would always say, Kalakshepo na kartavyaha, Sheena Mayu Shane Shane, Yamasya Karuna Nasti, Kartavyam Hari Kirtanam. Do not waste time. My friends, do not waste time. Every heartbeat of our body is taking us closer and closer to the grave. When the Lord of Yama comes and stands in front of us, the Lord of Death, Yama, does not have any mercy. So let's make every minute of our life more meaningful. Chant the name of the Lord. Kartavyam Hari Kirtanam. Let's chant the kirtis of Hari, the Nara. And when you look at all the different margas that's been explained, I'm quoting this from a Vishnu Puranam. As you all know, we had 4 yugas: Satya Yuga, which is also called as Krita Yuga, then Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Kali Yuga. We are in the Kali Yuga right now, and the Kali Yuga is around 432,000 years. And you multiply Kali Yuga with 2 times, you get Dwapara Yuga, the number of years. And when you get the number of years of Kali Yuga and multiplied with 3 times, 432,000 times 3, you get 1,296,000. Or when you multiply the number of years of Kali Yuga with 4, you get the Krita Yugas or Satya Yuga. So back in the Satya Yuga or the Krita Yuga, the first Yuga that started, Dhyanam was the primordial manner, because most of the people were 100% in the godliness mode. They were all truly blessed and they had a lot of Ishara Tattvam or Ishara Amsham there. So they were doing meditation. So whenever you read all the ancient Puranas or the Mahabharata or Itihasams, or even if you look at the Bhagavata Puranam, when you look at all the stories coming from Krita Yuga or Satya Yuga, you will hear most of the people performing meditation for years and years and years, because that was a method or that was a marga. Dhyanam was a marga back in Krita Yuga or Satya Yuga. So when it came to Treta Yuga, it was Yaga or Yajnas. So a lot of Vedic yajnas were done. So look at Prachina Barhi's story, or look at the Ramayanam. Putra Kameshti Yajnam, Ashwamedha Yajnam. You see a lot of yajnas happening because that whole incident happened during the Treta Yuga, where yajnas were the preferred marga Because by the time Treta Yuga came, the godliness quotient, as you see on the left, rightmost stuff, reduced from 100% to 75%. Then came Dwapara Yuga. And that's where when the archanas and pujas were all happening. So when you read any stories or Puranic stories from Dwapara Yuga, you will see a lot of archanas and pujas happening too. Remember when Rukmini Devi prayed to the god and when she finished puja, came down, Sri Krishna came and abducted her in the chariot. Those kind of stories. I'm just reciting one or two so that you see a lot of items or the method or the marga during the Dwapara Yuga was all pujas and archanas. And when we are entering into the Kali Yuga right now, which we are, the godliness quotient has dropped from 100% all the way to 25%, and it is still dropping down to 0% at the end of Kali Yuga. So the only method or the marga we have is Nama Sankirtanam, chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna. And that is exactly Poonthanam Tirumeni in his Jnanappana keeps re-emphasizing it again and again and again. So when we look at bhakti, there's a few slides where we slowly go one step at a time in the slightly advanced topics. Bhakti basically means paropakaram idam shariram. This body is for the service of others. Because when you're following the path of bhakti, you have minimal requirements. There are no conditions. You don't have to be highly intellect. You don't have to be physically built. There are not much prerequisites involved, no conditions involved. It is the easiest way to realize the truth and to attain moksha. And even if you're striving very hard, the bhakta sangha helps you to it. That is why they keep saying that have a good people as your friends, have some satsangam. And that is one of the reasons Shankara Bhagavad Pada said, satsangate nisangatvam. And even if you look at a lot of scriptures, our scriptures keep saying to capture the God, catch the devotee. Because if you are a true bhakta, that particular true bhakta can bless the entire satsang or the satsangis, and they all can help together to elevate ourselves. And there is one beautiful meaning for lower word Narayana. There's multiple meanings. So one particular beautiful meaning which I really loved was Narasya Ayanam iti Narayana. The ultimate goal of all humans is that level of Narayana. As we said, you're born as a Nara. You have two options. Either elevate yourselves to the location of Narayana or don't do anything, go down, perish, and go to Naraka. So going to a little bit of advanced topic of bhakti here. Why do we say bhakti removes? Because you heard about the other stuff as well. Can't it be jnanam? Can't it be karma yoga? Because the reason is bhakti is an inbuilt of all. And if you really look at bhakti in that particular manner, and if a person is a true bhakta, let me just quote it. If the person is a true bhakta, he or she will be able to channelize their mind. And when they channelize their mind, what happens is like, the tossing of the mind that happens. Should I do this? Should I do that? Or should I not do that? Or should I hate him? Should I love him? Those kind of things, right? The tossing of the mind is called vikshepam. Is slowly removed. When it is slowly removed, your mind does not waver here and there, just like a wild river flowing, because you have this kind of chitta shuddhi in your mind, the purity of the mind. With the purity of the mind, you're able to control your raga, your dvesham, your likes and dislikes. And this helps. And when that helps, your antakaranam is much more stabilized. Mano, buddhi, chittani, naham. That's what it says. Your manas, your buddhi, your chittam and ahankaram gets channelized in this antakaranam process. Then you're able to see every creature in this beautiful world as one. To you, everything is equal. Everything is impartial. There is no class. There is no bedam between this stuff. You come and elevate yourself to a total egalitarian level. And when you do all this stuff, the vasanas that's inbuilt in us, which provokes us to do more and more and more, slowly gets burnt. Just like a camphor lit in presence of a Lord. Just like a karpura. And when you go through the same phases again and again, those kind of self-assertions you have, the vainful glorification, the pompous attitude you have, oh, I am that, I am this, those kind of things all fizzles away. Then you realize you are nothing but a dasa to the Lord. And this is where another beautiful meaning of the word Krishna comes into picture. Karsheti iti Krishna. That which attracts you, that which binds you, that which pulls you like a magnet is Krishna. And coming to a little bit of advanced level of bhakti, and when you keep doing it, your manobalam, your mental strength increases. Whatever be the testing situations, whatever be the obstructions and the losses, you're able to handle it. Just like Poonthanam Tiribeni. Your emotional growth kindles. And the sacrifice tendency within you happens. You're able to help everyone. The dharma acharana karanam, the motivation for you have to do righteous things in your life increases. The renunciation quotient goes up. That is a tyaga moolam. And what happens is like the whole path of sadhana margam continuously comes to your mind, and whatever obstacles you have the sufficient courage, the determination to overcome the obstacles. And there is always a sense of equanimity within you, and there is a samachittam that completely envelops you, because you consider everyone's experiences as your own, and you start looking at everyone as an equal vision. Like we said, look at the previous chapter called Samadarshanam. And what happens when all this stuff happens? The Purnatvam settles in. Purnatvam is nothing but the state of completeness. The state of completeness which lifts you up. That is where the shell of Maya completely disappears, exposing your true nature. And that is a meaning of Mukunda. Muktim dadaditi iti Mukunda. That which gives you mukti, that which gives you liberation is Mukunda, Lord Krishna. What a beautiful wordings. Look at this particular slide. You see the beautiful peacock feathers there. So in Indian Puranas and Itihasas, peacock feathers are always associated with regrowth, with rejuvenation, and to happiness, peace. Or if you're really bogged down, it helps you to strive up. So with that particular thought of a peacock feather, look at the joy and sorrow. These are the two emotional experiences, just like one of the dvantas we have. Because whenever typically we have joy, we always do only one thing. We drown in happiness and we float in the clouds of ecstasy, and we keep telling everyone, oh, I am in cloud and I'm so happy today. And when you hit with sorrow, only two things happen for sure. One, you go so down, you start screaming and shouting at everyone, and you even swear at God. Then you won't even say, I'm not going to come to the temple. I don't believe him. What has he done to me? Those kind of things happen. But there is another people for whom sorrow happens. They take the sorrow, has the power of acceptance. They introspected within themselves, and they use that energy, that understanding as a resilience mode, and they bounce back. And when they bounce back, they focus to see what the re-evaluation strategies they should be doing it. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What makes me and what does not unmake me? How do I make myself more humble? What do I do to guide and that particular energy or the revitalization that happens within us with the helps of God, and when you do a total sharanagati to the Lord, helps you to bounce back. And it takes you to greater heights. That is why our Puranas tells you lots and lots of stories about this one, about sorrow, because there's two ways you can handle sorrow. Use a later method. Don't go with the former method. And there are three beautiful examples, which I just want to quickly say. The first one is Valmiki. When Valmiki was walking, he saw two birds making love, and the hunter shoots one down and the other one down. He looks at it and he says, Ma Nishada. And he starts writing the first sloka of Ramayana. That gave him the strength, that gave him the determination, that gave him the idea. He became the Adikavi. And what happened to Raja Parikshit when he put the serpent around the Muni's neck, and his son cursed him that he will die in 7 days. At first, he had a little bit of panic in his mind. Oh, I'm going to die in 7 days. But he used that as an opportunity to read Bhagavatam and come back. And he understands his true nature. And look at Arjuna, our famous hero in Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna Vishadam. The Sabyasachi, the person who is ambidextrous, who can handle any enemies or any foes, he looks at his own people, and his own Gandiva falls from his shoulders and falls down. Arjuna Vishadam. So when you look at these three cases which I just said, all these three people did not consider this as a roga, but instead they considered this as an yoga, so that they could rejuvenate, they could strive back, they could come back and realize the ultimate truth, and they could redeem humankind. So these are the beautiful examples which we should look into it. And this is my concluding slide. And in the concluding slide, Sri Poonthanam Namboothiri, in his own Njanappana, has a beautiful Malayalam word. This is one of those beautiful words which reverberates in my heart every time I read it. And my eyes swell up as well. And this is where the Poonthanam Namboothiri says, Unni Krishnan Manasil Kalikkumbol, Unnigal Mattu Venamo Makkalai. Unni Krishnan Manasil Kalikkumbol, Unnigal Mattu Venamo Makkalai. It says when Lord Krishna, Unni Krishnan, is playing, is dancing in my mind, why do I need other children? See, he got married at the age of 20 or something like that. At the age of 23, his son died. And then after that, he was childless, and he lived up to an age of 93. For 73 years, he was doing Sama Sankirtanam. He was explaining the concept of Nama Sankirtanam. He went all around Kerala, explaining this, bringing everyone up, elevating all of us. He could have been in a deep sorrow, but he decided not to. He understood whatever that's going to happen within him is only ephemeral. It's going to happen and it's going to disappear soon. That's one of the reasons what he did was he did the complete Sharanagati to Lord. And he had a great deep bhakti within himself. And that is one of the reasons he kept saying, when Bala Gopalan or the Unni Krishnan is in my heart, how can I go wrong? Such a beautiful statement, right? When the Lord himself is in your heart, when the Lord himself is playing in your heart, you will only go towards the path of mukti, nothing else. How can you falter when the Lord resides in your heart? So that is one of the reasons they even say that even in Lord Guruvayoor, every day Lord Krishna is dressed up as Bala Gopala. So with that stuff, I will conclude today's presentation. I will thank each and everyone for giving me a wonderful opportunity. And this particular magnum opus of Poonthanam Namboothiri cannot be summarized in 1 hour. So that is one of the reasons I just took one Mangalacharanam and I took a sample of 3 short sentences in a random manner. And I tried to assimilate it. And I tried to bring in some Advaitic concepts, which my Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda ji has taught me. And I tried to present it. And if there are any mistakes, please excuse me, please correct me. And with that kind note, I will conclude today's presentation. Thank you so much.
Namaskaram, Sri Krishnanji. My name is Ravi Shankar, and I'm a volunteer with Sringeri Vidya Bharati Foundation. Thank you so much for this great enlightening presentation on Njanappana. In fact, many of us were not aware of this great fountain of wisdom that was available to all of us until Dr. Alkananda mentioned about it a couple of months ago. And she mentioned that you are the right person to give us an introduction of this gem. We are indeed very grateful to you, sir, for introducing us to this gem. And you actually took us to the 16th century and made us feel that we were all in that century learning about Njanappana. This is a great presentation. We could see the passion, the amount of research, time, and efforts you took to bring this great presentation to us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. You actually brought out the whole essence of Njanappana in this great presentation. And we would be very honored if you could come again in the future to give us more details of this. It would be our honor to have you. My job today was to consolidate all the questions and ask you. But your presentation was so great that I have not seen any questions so far. So you were so clear in your presentation. And as I told you earlier, We all had a great introduction to this wisdom, and it would be our benefit that we further read about it, know about this poem. Thank you so much, sir. Now I request our volunteer Sri Srikant to present a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Thank you, Ravi. It's an honor and a privilege to propose vote of thanks on behalf of Jnanasudha to Shri Krishnan ji for a very memorable talk on Gyanapana. Krishnan ji, while I knew nothing about the Jnanapana before this event was organized, during the run-up to this event, I did listen to Jnanapana sung by Srimati P. Leela and couple of others. The melody of this music and the sense or feeling of devotion it imparts, even if I did not understand the meaning, stole my heart. Today, listening to your talk, my respect and liking for this piece has increased a lot more. You have laid out the essence of Jnanapana in such a simple and yet it was very lucid, so clear. Thanks to you, we got the essence of Jnanapana today, and I am sure, like me, it has kindled interest in many of the viewers, to go and study this and listen to this particular piece. You started off with the history of Jnanapana. The story is so heart-wrenching, and how that story, how Sri Poonthanam channelized that sorrow towards the vairagya. That was really moving, very moving, especially for me. And the fact that he always stayed behind the scene, never aspired for the limelight. I mean, that's a very very interesting aspect that you brought out. In one of the stanzas, the entire cycle of birth and rebirth was so eloquently described in that stanza that really stuck with me. And your subsequent pictorial representation of the purusharthas and the vasanas and the cycle of birth and how to break away from the shackles, that was very effective as far as I'm concerned. The bubble formation to explain the cycle of birth, that was a very interesting aspect as well. One of the things that, as Alakananda ji mentioned right in the beginning, one of the purpose of this series of lecture was to bring in all these regional philosophical works and how all of them connect towards the Sanatana Dharma. And in your presentation, you referring to Bhaja Govindam, the Padma Purana, the Vishnu Purana, the Bhagavad Gita, and making all that connection, I think the very purpose of this lecture series is served right there in my mind. So I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, you also brought out some very interesting, fascinating facts, like the 8.4 million species in our Bhagavata Puranam compared to the 8.7 million species. They were very interesting as well. I mean, like I can go on and on. On behalf of Jnanasudha, please accept our humble gratitude for taking time to explain to us the essence of this beautiful Jnanapana. This definitely has stolen my heart, and I would be listening to this and probably reading about it a lot more. And I'm sure many of the viewers would be doing the same thing as well. Thank you very much once again. And I also would like to thank our leaders, Dr. Lakshmanan and Dr. Parambat, for their leadership in making the Jnanasudha a reality. Without their continuous support and encouragement, this would not have happened. Srimati Alakananda Nath Alkaji is the visionary, the brain, the architect behind Jnanasudha. And we have all seen the result of her passion and enthusiasm in the quality of these lectures that we have been listening for the last few months. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Srimati Alkaji on behalf of Jnanasudha. I also would like to take this opportunity to thank Sri Kishore Nath and Sri Murali for managing today's Zoom and live streaming, Sri Ravi Shankar for the preparation of the brochures and the publicity efforts, and Sri Gopinath, Srimati Brinda, and many others in the committees who have worked behind the scene to make this event a very successful one. This entire thing is a satsanga, and when you were talking about Krishnanji, you mentioned that Bhagavad Gita, that Bhajagovindam stanza, satsangatve nisangatvam, and I am seeing the effect of being part of this satsanga. Even a little bit of a thing that I hear I personally feel that has started bringing in transformation in me. That stanza that you mentioned is so powerful and so true. So before I conclude, I would like to just bring one more important announcement here. As Srimati Alkaji mentioned it in the beginning, Jnanasudha is having a lecture series on literary works by sons, poets, and philosophers from different languages in India. The idea is to understand Sanathana Dharma, by those who actually practiced it and codified it in their works in different languages. Today was the first one where we learned about the beautiful Gyanapana by Sri Poonthanam in Malayalam. And we will be having our next lecture series, and it will be on next lecture in the series that will be held on Sunday, April 24th. The lecture will be on Jnaneshwari of Sant Jnaneshwar from Maharashtra. The lecture will be given by Sri Chakor Bhaviskar from Pune. So please stay tuned for more information on this lecture. I humbly request all of you to mark this date and come for the lecture. I also request you to bring with you your friends and anyone who may be interested in Jnanasudha. Thank you very much. And thanks to all the audience who came in today to listen to this lecture. Thank you very much. So this concludes the program. Hari Om.